The heavy wooden doors of a 55-year-old institution are finally slamming shut.
Thank God.
Right. For decades, the cries echoing from inside were completely silenced by NDAs and wilderness walls.
Just buried.
Exactly. The cameras flashed, the crowd froze, and just like that, Hollywood had a new obsession.
Oh, yeah, but this time, it wasn't a red carpet scandal.
No, not at all. All it took was one pop culture icon refusing to look away to bring a $23 billion industry to its absolute knees. Major decisions are finally following Paris Hilton's abuse allegations, and the fallout is staggering. Welcome to Starscope Report.
I'm so ready for this.
Join Jordan and Jamie as they uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
Let's get into it.
So we are thrilled you could join us today for this deep dive. We've got a massive stack of sources today.
A literal mountain of research.
Yeah, I mean, we are pulling from CBS News, Guardian, City News, KSL, and even some raw congressional testimony.
Which is wild to read through, by the way.
It really is. Our mission today is to explore the breaking news that the infamous Provo Canyon School is losing its license.
Yeah.
And I want to be clear right up front. This isn't just a localized story in Utah.
No, not at all. It's a shockwave.
Right. It's currently just dismantling an entire empire.
And, you know, what makes this whole situation so compelling to me is watching this collision between, like, high-gloss celebrity culture and grassroots real-world justice.
Yeah, totally.
Because we are witnessing a total paradigm shift in how society views and handles youth mental health.
Absolutely.
And it exposes the darkest corners of this highly lucrative, entirely unregulated industry that, honestly, most people didn't even know existed until very recently.
I know I didn't. So let's start with the breaking point here.
Let's do it.
According to CBS News and the Utah Department of Health and Human Services, Utah regulators have dropped a hammer.
A massive hammer.
Yeah. They have permanently revoked the license of Provo Canyon School's Springville campus.
Wow.
And they ordered them to terminate all services by August 6th, 2026.
So this isn't just like a temporary slap on the wrist.
No, this is not a temporary suspension while they fix some paperwork.
Yeah.
This is a complete permanent shutdown of a facility that has operated since 1971.
Since 1971. I mean, to really grasp the magnitude of a forced closure like this, you have to look at what this facility has managed to survive over the last half-century.
For sure.
According to Wikipedia and CBS, the school is owned by Universal Health Services, and its history reads like a dystopian novel.
It really does.
Back in 1978, there was a literal high-speed police chase because 3 students stole a car just to escape the grounds.
Wait, really? A high-speed chase?
Yeah, literally running for their lives.
Right.
And over the decades, they've faced a mountain of lawsuits alleging physical abuse, gross medical negligence, and the use of solitary confinement.
It's just horrific stuff.
Yet for 55 years, they successfully kept those heavy doors open and the beds full.
Which brings us to the inevitable question, what finally broke the camel's back?
Yeah.
Based on state investigations and reporting from KSL, it came down to a series of terrifying incidents in May of 2026.
Yeah, and I think we need to warn everyone, the details here are deeply disturbing.
Yes, definitely. Trigger warning for medical trauma here. According to legal filings, a 13-year-old boy was violently slammed onto his head by another resident.
God, 13 years old.
I know. The impact was so severe he suffered a fractured jaw and intracranial bleeding.
A brain bleed.
A severe brain bleed.
And, the injury itself is tragic, obviously, but the facility's response is what triggered the state's immediate fatal action against their license.
Right, because of what they did next.
Exactly. When dealing with a pediatric brain bleed, standard medical protocol is incredibly clear.
You call 911.
You call 911. But instead of doing that, the staff attempted to handle the entire situation internally.
Which is insane.
They bypassed local emergency services completely and called a private, non-medical transport company to take this critically injured child to the hospital.
Okay, let me just pause on that, because this completely shatters the illusion that this is a quote-unquote medical facility.
Totally.
I mean, why would a supposed psychiatric residential treatment center call a private transport car for traumatic brain injury instead of an ambulance?
It makes no sense medically.
None. It sounds like a bad cover-up in a crime thriller, right?
That's it.
You don't call an Uber when a kid's skull is bleeding unless you are terrified of the official, undeniable paper trail that an ambulance and paramedics brought with them.
I mean, it's a devastating abdication of their duty of care.
Completely.
And when state investigators actually dug into the timeline, they discovered that administrators had ignored documented safety concerns.
Wait, there were warnings beforehand.
Yes, and explicit transfer requests from that exact residence guardian prior to the assault.
Oh my God.
The warning signs were flashing red, and they were buried. And tragically, this wasn't an isolated lapse in judgment that month.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
At the exact same time, a teenage girl at the facility was left to vomit in severe pain for 2 weeks.
2 full weeks. It makes my stomach turn.
Right. According to the state's findings, she was allegedly given nothing more than ibuprofen.
Unbelievable.
Because of that extreme delay in securing actual medical care for her, she developed a severe condition that led to permanent kidney failure.
Permanent.
Yes. She will now require dialysis 3 times a week for the rest of her life.
The visceral negligence here is just heartbreaking. I mean, when the state stepped in, the Utah DHHS Director of Licensing, Shannon Tommen Black, stated unequivocally that no child should ever be harmed in programs that are specifically designed and marketed to protect them.
Absolutely.
So the Guardian reported that the state cited the school for failing staff-to-client ratios, using unnecessary restraints.
Which is a huge red flag on its own.
A massive red flag, and engaging in aggressive physical contact and utterly neglecting basic care.
So they basically shut it all down.
Yeah, they halted all new admissions immediately before pulling the plug on the license altogether.
Now, to ensure we are reporting on all sides of this impartially, we do need to mention that Provo Canyon School's CEO, Tim Marshall, vehemently disagrees with the state's decision.
Right, he put out a statement.
He did. In a public statement to CBS News, he noted that the administration is evaluating all legal and administrative options, including an appeal.
Of course.
He maintained that their priority remains providing safe, high-quality care for the adolescents placed with them.
Well, the current administration often points out that the school is under new ownership compared to its early decades, right?
Yeah, that's their main defense.
Arguing that the most infamous abuses happened under prior management. But State Senator Mike McKell essentially shut that defense down.
How so?
He pointed out that even after recent legislative reforms were passed in Utah, it is completely unacceptable to continue seeing serious life-altering medical concerns emerge from these exact same facilities.
I mean, he's not wrong. But if you're loving these Hollywood twists and real-world justice, make sure you're subscribed. We've got even crazier stories ahead.
Definitely hit subscribe.
Because how did this 55-year-old fortress finally crack under the weight of its own secrets?
That's the real question.
The structural damage actually started years ago. And it points back to a late-night kidnapping in the 1990s involving one of the most famous women in the world.
Yeah, and the scale of the quote-unquote troubled teen industry is something most people just don't comprehend until they are caught in it.
It's massive.
It is a $23 billion network of private, for-profit, residential centers.
Billion with a B.
Yes, and they thrived by operating entirely in the shadows, totally insulated from public scrutiny.
Right.
Until Paris Hilton dragged them into the light.
Exactly. Consider this headline, guys. Paris Hilton was kidnapped from her bed in the middle of the night by 2 men with handcuffs.
Just horrifying.
And it happened with her parents' full approval.
It sounds completely unbelievable to anyone outside this ecosystem.
It sounds like a movie.
Right, but this is standard operating procedure in what's known as the teen escort business.
Yeah, we have to talk about that.
In the late 90s, when Paris was just 16 years old, she was taken from her home and transported across state lines to Provo Canyon School.
Right.
And you have to understand the psychological manipulation at play here. These organizations market themselves to desperate, often wealthy parents with slick brochures promising healing, discipline, and a cure for rebellious behavior.
So they sell them a lie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The parents are sold a highly profitable illusion.
And the reality of what Paris endured there for 11 months shatters that illusion completely.
Totally.
Drawing from the Times of India and her own sworn congressional testimony, Paris detailed a literal cinematic horror story.
So hard to listen to.
It is. She described being subjected to solitary confinement in rooms with blood-stained walls.
Ugh.
She was force-fed unknown medications that left her in a haze.
Just to keep her compliant.
Right.
Yeah.
And perhaps most terrifyingly, she testified to enduring forced digital penetration by male staff members in the middle of the night.
God.
A practice the facility masqueraded as cervical exams.
The darkest part of her testimony is realizing she wasn't an anomaly.
Right. This wasn't just happening to her.
No, celebrity tattoo artist Kat Von D was also sent to Provo Canyon School.
I didn't even know that until we started researching this.
Yeah, and she recently came forward to corroborate the environment of forced sedation, isolation, and psychological abuse, stating she left the facility with major PTSD.
Wow.
And, when you have multiple high-profile individuals independently sharing these intensely traumatic parallel experiences...
It completely destroys their narrative.
Yes, it destroys the industry's favorite defense. The idea that these are just isolated incidents caused by a few bad apples.
Exactly. And for over 20 years, Paris kept this trauma completely hidden behind her iconic, bubbly, party girl persona.
Which is wild to think about.
It is. But in 2020, she broke her silence with her YouTube documentary, This is Paris.
Such a good documentary.
Incredible. And she didn't just tell her story, She mobilized. She led a silent protest through the streets of Provo, Utah, surrounded by hundreds of other survivors.
Yeah, she took it to the streets.
And by 2024, she had taken her fight all the way to Capitol Hill, testifying before the House Ways and Means Committee.
Honestly, watching her testimony was watching a masterclass in advocacy.
Oh, absolutely.
She used her massive global platform not just to validate her own pain, but to speak for the victims who literally lost their lives inside these walls.
Right.
She took the fame that the media used to mock her and weaponized it to dismantle an untouchable industry.
And she specifically named 2 children in her testimony, and I really feel like we need to say their names here to understand the stakes.
Yes, please.
Cornelius Fredericks was a 16-year-old boy whose mother had died, leaving him in the system.
Yes, heartbreaking.
He was restrained by 8 staff members for nearly 10 minutes. His offense, throwing a sandwich crust in the cafeteria.
A sandwich crust.
Yes, that physical restraint ended his life.
It's just murder.
It is. And she also named Jason Terry. He was only 7 years old.
Oh.
He was left alone, verbally abused, and physically restrained until he lost consciousness. When first responders finally arrived, they found vomit running down his cheeks.
It is utterly tragic. Paris spoke directly to the committee as a mother herself, which was so powerful.
Yeah.
She noted that when a child is born, you have all these hopes and dreams for their future.
Of course.
And being warehoused in a cold, profit-driven facility where a child's life is treated as a liability on a balance sheet, it is a criminal betrayal of those dreams.
So let me pose a question to you, the listener, because this is the chilling reality her advocacy highlights.
Right.
If a billionaire heiress with all the financial privilege, media visibility, and social capital in the world felt she couldn't get anyone to believe her for 2 decades,
Right. Think about that.
what chance did a foster kid with absolutely no resources have against this machine?
That is the exact question that fuels this entire movement.
It'd have to be.
Because the system is ingeniously designed to protect itself. It relies heavily on the label of the troubled teen.
Yeah, it's like a weaponized label.
It's a built-in defense mechanism. If a child manages to report the abuse, the facility simply turns to the parents or the state social workers and says, look, we warned you, they are manipulative, they are troubled, they are lying to get out of the program, don't believe them.
Wow.
It isolates the victim perfectly, cutting off any lifeline to the outside world.
But that isolation is officially ending.
Yes, it is.
When the news broke that Utah was revoking Provo Canyon's license, Paris posted an incredibly emotional response on social media.
I saw that.
She wrote, "The dream I've had to protect future generations from the abuse I endured is finally happening. The place that hurt me and countless children before and after me will no longer be allowed to operate."
It is a monumental victory for survivors who fought for years to be heard.
Massive.
But this Utah decision is just the first domino. Because while Paris was dismantling the West Coast pipeline, a completely different cultural force was ripping the lid off the East Coast. And later in the deep dive, we'll talk about the shocking twist nobody saw coming.
Pop culture isn't just reflecting the news anymore, guys. It's actively writing the laws.
Literally.
According to City News, the hit Netflix docuseries The Program, Cons, Cults, and Kidnapping recently exposed the academy at Ivy Ridge in rural northern New York.
Have you seen it? It's intense.
I have. It's terrifying. This facility was marketed as an elite boarding school for teens with behavioral issues, but former students described an oppressive, cult-like institution where the psychological control was so extreme they weren't even allowed to look out a window or smile without facing severe punishment.
No smiling, no looking out the window. And to understand how these facilities operate, we really have to connect the dots here.
Right, because they aren't isolated.
Exactly. Ivy Ridge wasn't a standalone operation. It was affiliated with an organization called WWASPS.
Which stands for the Worldwide Association of Specialty Programs and Schools.
Right. And the founder of WWSPS, Robert Litchfield, also has historical ties to Provo Canyon School, according to Wikipedia.
Oh, wow. It all comes full circle.
It totally does.
Yeah.
WWSPS operated as this massive marketing and umbrella network. They provided the blueprint for behavior modification centers using very similar, highly controversial methodologies across multiple states and even internationally.
I will say, Robert Litchfield did release a statement regarding the documentary.
Of course he did.
He maintained that his companies only provided marketing and administrative services, and that he neither owned nor operated Ivy Ridge directly.
Right, distancing himself.
Exactly. He stated he found it extremely unlikely that the vast majority of the staff there were anything but caring professionals.
But the students who actually lived through it tell a profoundly different story.
Completely different.
Yeah.
And the reaction to the Netflix documentary proves just how resonant their stories are. The series generated over 11 million views almost immediately.
11 million. That's huge.
But the real impact wasn't in the viewership numbers. It was the fact that it resulted in over 50 new criminal complaints flooding into the local district attorney's office in St. Lawrence County.
This is what I love. This is where we see documentaries acting as a modern alternative justice system.
Yeah.
Where traditional state oversight completely failed these kids, public awareness is forcing accountability.
Absolutely. District Attorney Gary Pascoe was pretty candid about this. He said that before the documentary began streaming, his office hadn't received any of these complaints.
0 complaints before the doc.
0. The silence was absolute. Now his team is assessing dozens of harrowing allegations of physical, mental, and sexual abuse.
Wow.
Former student Steve Kakamo, who was sent to Ivy Ridge in 2003, summed up the phenomenon perfectly. He said, "In 20 years, I never spoke, and that documentary gave me a voice."
And the fallout in New York was immediate. State officials have actively placed employees at a local public psychiatric center on administrative leave while they investigate whether those individuals have past ties to the abuse allegations at Ivy Ridge.
DA Pascoe is making a point to ensure fair due process, though.
Right, which is important.
He noted that just because someone was employed at Ivy Ridge doesn't automatically mean they are guilty of a crime, emphasizing that it's important to let the investigations follow the evidence.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There are also incredibly complex legal hurdles here. Because the school has been closed for 15 years, prosecutors are fighting against strict statute of limitations issues for felony charges.
Ugh, the legal tape.
But the State Office of Victim Services is actually stepping in to clear a path. They're extending the usual deadlines for good cause, allowing former students to finally apply for crime victim compensation.
See, it proves that public pressure can actually bend the legal system toward justice.
It really does.
And it's not just local prosecutors taking notice. This reckoning has reached the highest levels of the federal government, largely due to the relentless lobbying by survivors.
Stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next as we track the fallout of these incredible industry shakeups.
Yes, subscribe, guys.
Because on December 20, 2024, Congress passed the Stop Institutional Child Abuse Act.
Which is huge.
Massive.
Yeah.
And what's remarkable is that this was a deeply bipartisan effort. It was introduced by Democrats Ro Khanna and Jeff Merkley, working directly alongside Republicans Buddy Carter and John Cornyn.
You don't see that every day.
No, you don't. They crossed the aisle to address the systemic failures that allowed this multi-billion-dollar industry to thrive on neglect.
And the mechanics of the act are designed to strip away the secrecy these facilities rely on.
Exactly.
It establishes a federal work group specifically to oversee youth residential programs, and most importantly, it mandates the creation of a national database to track the treatment of youth, bringing data and transparency to an industry that has lived entirely in the dark.
Thank goodness.
It also orders a comprehensive study by the National Academies of Sciences on the physiological and psychological impacts of restraints and seclusion.
Alongside that, Paris Hilton has been a massive advocate for the reauthorization of Title IV-VB.
Right, which is so important.
If you aren't familiar, Title IV-VB is federal legislation that provides crucial resources and support to vulnerable families. The entire goal of that funding is to keep families together so kids don't end up funneled into the child welfare system in the first place.
You starve the pipeline?
Exactly. As Paris put it, we cannot allow children to grow up in cold facilities that act like kid prisons.
When you look at the landscape right now, the passage of the Stop Institutional Child Abuse Act, the flood of 50 new criminal complaints in New York driven by a Netflix documentary, and the permanent forced revocation of Provo Canyon's license in Utah,
Yeah.
you realize we are watching the active dismantling of a multi-billion-dollar empire in real time. The heavy wooden doors really are finally slamming shut.
Which brings us to a really uncomfortable, profound question that we need to leave you with today.
Yeah, this is the big one.
We are looking at a massive paradigm shift. Mega facilities like Provo Canyon are being ordered to empty their beds by August 6th. Places like Ivy Ridge have been shuttered and their networks exposed.
So the system is fracturing. But breaking the system creates a massive logistical vacuum.
Paris Hilton herself noted in her advocacy that there are nearly 400,000 children currently in the foster care system.
400,000.
Tens of thousands of them are warehoused in these private residential facilities simply because the state has nowhere else to put them.
Right.
So if we successfully dismantle this $23 billion private industry, what actually happens to those kids?
It is the multi-billion-dollar question. When the state goes in and shuts a facility down, as the DHHS noted in Utah, they can't just slap a padlock on the door and tell everyone to go home.
No.
Many of these kids don't have a home. The state has a legal and moral responsibility to discharge these kids to safe environments.
But are there safe environments waiting for them?
That's the thing.
Is our chronically underfunded public foster care infrastructure truly prepared to catch hundreds of thousands of highly vulnerable kids with complex behavioral and emotional needs?
Probably not.
Or, if we burn this industry to the ground without building a safety net first, will a new, even more underground, unregulated industry quietly take its place in the shadows?
It's a terrifying thought, honestly. We've finally exposed the monster in the room, but we haven't necessarily built a safe house for the survivors yet.
No, we haven't.
The fight for transparency and accountability is winning, but the fight for actual holistic care is just beginning.
It's something to deeply consider the next time you see a celebrity using their platform. Sometimes, behind the red carpets, the designer clothes, and the glamorous image, there is a survivor fighting a brutal war the rest of us couldn't even see.
So well said.
You've been listening to Starscope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.